Creed Aventus is the undisputed king of men's fragrances. But what happens when the king starts charging you $400 for watered-down performance? Today we are tearing apart the Aventus architectural blueprint. We aren't just looking at cheap imitations. I'm giving you the 5 strategic alternatives that took the legendary DNA, fixed the notorious reformulation flaws, amplified the projection, and completely dethroned the king. Let's look at the real data. The psychology of the king and the flaw in the system. Before we break down the contenders, we have to understand the psychology of Aventus. When it launched in 2010, it wasn't just a fragrance. It was a status symbol. It was the scent of self-mastery. The perfect architectural balance of bright, optimistic pineapple and dark, authoritative birch smoke. It commanded respect in the boardroom and turned heads in the evening. But over the last few years, buying Aventus has become a game of Russian roulette. If you know, you know. The infamous batch variations. You drop $400 and you might get a heavy fruit batch that lasts 4 hours, or a smoky batch that fades before your lunch break. The luxury house got comfortable. They relied on their prestige while quietly watering down the juice. But the market always adapts. The clone houses didn't just watch. They reverse-engineered the psychology of the scent. They isolated the exact emotional triggers, the crisp citrus opening, the rugged mossy base, and they rebuilt it. They gave us back the performance that Creed took away. Here are the 5 fragrances that beat Aventus at its own game. Blueprint 1. Armoff Club de Nuit Intense Man Limited Edition Parfum. We have to start with the heavyweight champion, Armoff Club de Nuit Intense Man, specifically the limited edition Parfum. Now you've probably heard of the original EDT. It's famous for being a compliment monster, but infamous for an opening that smells like synthetic lemon cleaner. It was harsh. It was aggressive. The limited edition Parfum is where Armoff grew up and put on a tailored suit. They completely smoothed out the harsh edges. The opening here is a rich, rounded pineapple and bergamot that smells incredibly wealthy. But the real magic is the dry down. It brings back that dark, smoky, musky ambergris and cedar base that made the 2013 batches of Aventus so legendary. You're getting 8 to 10 plus hours of longevity with a heavy projection for the first 2 hours. It doesn't scream for attention like a cheap clone. It commands the room like a CEO. If you want the closest, highest quality, one-to-one recreation of prime Aventus without the chemical harshness, this is your primary weapon. Blueprint 2. Alheram La Aventur. Next up is the analytical, surgical precision clone, Alheram La Aventur. If CDNIM is the smoky, dark version of Aventus, La Aventur is the crisp, clinical, and sharp alternative. The architecture of this fragrance is fascinating. It opens with an extremely sharp, almost piercing lemon and bergamot combination. There is a metallic edge to it in the first 5 minutes that feels very modern, almost cold. But patience is the key here. As it dries down, it transitions into a phenomenal, dry, woody, and mossy base. It strips away some of the heavy fruitiness and focuses on the dry, masculine woods. Performance-wise, it's highly reliable. You are looking at a solid 7 to 9 hours on skin with a scent trail that cuts through the air like a knife. For the guy who wants the Aventus DNA but prefers a cleaner, drier, and more professional profile, La Aventur is the smartest investment you can make. Blueprint 3. Afnon Supremacy Silver. Coming in at number 3, we have Afnon Supremacy Silver. This is for the purists. When we talk about the Aventus blueprint, there is always a divide between the fruity batch guys and the smoky batch guys. Supremacy Silver leans heavily into the smoke. The opening still gives you that classic citrus and blackcurrant burst, but it is immediately grounded by a dominant birch-like smokiness and a heavy dose of ambergris-style musk. It smells rugged. It smells like a guy who doesn't just wear a suit, but actually owns the company. Reviewers consistently clock this at 7 to 9 hours of longevity with a moderate to strong projection. While some might argue it has a slightly more synthetic edge up close than the Armoff limited edition, in the air, which is where 99% of people will experience your fragrance, it is virtually indistinguishable from a vintage smoky batch of the king. Blueprint 4. Afnon Supremacy Not Only Intense. At number 4, we aren't just looking at a clone. We are looking at an evolution. Afnon Supremacy Not Only Intense. This is what happens when a clone house decides to take the blueprint and inject it with absolute steroids. This isn't a one-to-one clone. It takes the core DNA of Aventus and pushes it into the dark. It is richer, denser, and far more aggressive. They amped up the black currant and oak moss and added a layer of vanilla and amber sweetness that Aventus simply doesn't have. It turns the DNA from a daytime signature scent into a nighttime powerhouse. And the performance? It is almost frightening. This is a 9 to 12 hour beast. The projection is heavy, thick, and undeniable for the first 4 hours. If you wear this, you are making a statement. It's the silent weapon archetype dialed up to 10. Blueprint 5. Mont Blanc Explorer. Finally, at number 5, we have the corporate Trojan horse, Mont Blanc Explorer. Now, fragrance snobs will argue in the comments that this isn't a true Aventus clone. And architecturally, they are right. Explorer doesn't use pineapple. Instead, it uses bright bergamot, spicy pink pepper, and a massive dose of modern ambroxan. But psychologically, it hits the exact same triggers. It is a designer-clean interpretation of the high-status DNA. It is universally appealing, incredibly smooth, and arguably the most office-safe fragrance on this list. You'll get around 6 to 8 hours of longevity with a very polite, moderate projection. It won't choke out a boardroom, but it will leave a professional, confident scent trail. It's the easiest blind buy on the market for the guy who wants the high-status aura without diving deep into Middle Eastern clone houses. So, what is the core lesson here? Status is an illusion, but performance is a metric. Luxury houses spend millions convincing you that a $400 price tag equates to superiority. But the data doesn't lie. These 5 fragrances didn't just copy the king. They exposed the flaws in his armor, fixed the performance, and rewrote the blueprint for a fraction of the cost. If you're ready to stop overpaying for a brand name and start investing in actual performance, hit that like button. Subscribe to The Fragrance Affair for more architectural breakdowns of the scents that actually deserve your money. Drop a comment below. Have you given up on Creed Aventus? And which of these king killers is your current signature? I'll see you in the next one. Architect your presence.